Commander Vexthal stood before the massive viewing screen in his command center, his 4 eyes studying the data streams that flowed across the display. The information made him feel confident. Another primitive species had been found, and soon they would join the long list of worlds that bowed to the Zephyrian Empire. The species called themselves humans, and they lived on the 3rd planet of a yellow star system. Vexthal's scouts had been watching them for several months now, and the reports all said the same thing. These humans were new to space travel. They had only recently figured out how to travel faster than light, and their technology was basic compared to what the Zephyrians possessed. "Sir, the final scout report is ready," said his aide, a young officer named Kethver. The aide's green skin showed the pale marks of nervousness, but Vexthal paid no attention to this. New officers were always nervous before their first conquest. "Show me," Vexthal ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 12 different species in his career. The screen changed to show images of human ships. They looked crude and simple, like metal boxes with engines stuck on the back. Some appeared to be converted from cargo vessels with weapon systems that looked like they had been added as an afterthought. The largest human ship was barely half the size of a Zephyrian destroyer, and their entire fleet consisted of only 12 vessels. "They have no unified government," Kethver reported, reading from his datapad. "The humans are spread across multiple worlds with different leaders. Their weapons appear to be primitive kinetic projectiles and basic energy systems. Intelligence suggests they will surrender quickly once they see our superior technology." Vexthal nodded approvingly. This would be easier than the conquest of the Deltani merchants, who had at least put up a brief fight before surrendering. The Korath farmers had been even easier, giving up the moment they saw the Zephyrian fleet arrive in their system. "Prepare the compliance fleet," Vexthal ordered. 30 ships should be more than enough to make them understand their situation. Meanwhile, millions of miles away in the Sol system, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the UES Valiant, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. The ship had been designed to explore new star systems and make contact with alien life, but today it might have to fight for humanity's survival. The bridge was busy with activity as his crew worked at their stations. Morrison had handpicked each member of his team from the best officers in the combined Earth fleet. His first officer, Lieutenant Commander Beth Turner, was monitoring the long-range sensors that had first detected the alien ships. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command," announced Communications Officer Pete Davis, a young man who had graduated at the top of his class from the Space Academy. "Put it through," Morrison replied. Straightening in his chair, the main screen flickered to life, showing the stern face of Admiral Helen Brooks. The Admiral was known throughout the fleet as a no-nonsense leader who had helped design humanity's first space warships. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes showed the worry she felt about the approaching alien fleet. "Captain Morrison, I'll get straight to the point," Admiral Brooks said. "Our deep space sensors have detected 30 alien vessels approaching the Sol system. They'll reach the outer planets within 6 hours. We're dealing with our first contact situation, and it doesn't look friendly." Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe, and now they had their answer. Unfortunately, their new neighbors didn't seem to be coming for a peaceful visit. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Morrison asked. "All human vessels are to take defensive positions throughout the system. Your ship will coordinate first contact attempts. We want to try diplomacy first, but if these aliens are hostile, we need to be ready to defend ourselves on Earth." Morrison nodded. He understood the weight of responsibility that had just been placed on his shoulders. The UES Valiant and 11 other human ships were all that stood between Earth and an unknown alien threat. "Admiral, what do we know about their capabilities?" asked Lieutenant Commander Turner. "Their ships are large, much bigger than ours," Admiral Brooks replied. "But we don't know anything about their weapons or technology. We're going in blind, people. Be careful out there." The transmission ended, leaving Morrison and his crew to prepare for what might be humanity's most important day. Around the Sol system, Other human ships were taking their positions. The Hughes Ranger, commanded by Captain Lisa Grant, moved to guard the outer asteroid belt. The Hughes Defiant, under Captain Amy Rodriguez, positioned itself near Mars. Each ship represented years of human engineering and the hopes of billions of people back on Earth. What the humans didn't know was that their ships were much more dangerous. Then they appeared. The conversion from cargo and mining vessels had been done carefully, with weapon systems hidden inside what looked like normal ship components. The humans had learned from their own history that sometimes the best strategy was to appear weaker than you really were. Captain Morrison walked through the corridors of his ship, checking on the various departments. In the weapons bay, Chief Gunner Tony Martinez was running final checks on the railgun system. The weapons looked simple, but they could fire projectiles at incredible speeds that would punch through most known materials. "How are we looking, Chief?" Morrison asked. "Ready for anything, Captain," Martinez replied with a grin. "These aliens are going to get a surprise if they think they can push us around." In the engine room, Chief Engineer Nancy Kim was making sure the ship's power systems were running at peak efficiency. The humans had developed their technology through centuries of warfare on Earth, and every system was designed to work even under extreme battle conditions. "Captain, we're getting readings on the alien fleet," announced Turner over the ship's communication system. "They're dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system." Morrison hurried back to the bridge, where the crew was watching the sensor displays with fascination and fear. 30 alien ships had appeared on the screens, and they were much larger than any human vessel. The biggest ship was easily 3 times the size of the UES Valiant. "They're sending a transmission," reported Davis. "It's coming from the largest ship." "Put it through," Morrison ordered. The screen showed an alien creature unlike anything humans had ever seen. Commander Vexel had 4 eyes arranged around his head, and his skin was a dark blue color with silver markings. He wore what appeared to be a military uniform, and his expression was one of complete confidence. "I am Commander Vexel of the Zephyrian Empire," the alien said through a translation device. "You will surrender immediately and submit to Zephyrian rule. Your primitive weapons are no match for our technology. Comply, and your people will be treated fairly as subjects of the Empire." Morrison felt anger rise in his chest. These aliens had traveled across space to threaten Earth and demand humanity's surrender without even attempting peaceful contact. He looked around his bridge at his crew, seeing the same anger reflected in their faces. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Valiant," he replied. "We seek peaceful relations with your people, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. We suggest we meet to discuss terms that benefit both our species." On his flagship, Commander Vexel listened to the humans' response with amusement. Every primitive species said the same thing when first contacted. They always wanted to negotiate, always thought they could find some way to avoid the inevitable. Soon they would learn that the Zephyrian Empire did not negotiate with inferior species. "You have 1 hour to begin surrender procedures," Vexel replied. "After that, we will demonstrate the futility of resistance." The transmission ended, leaving both sides to prepare for what was coming. Neither species fully understood what they were about to face, but both were confident in their abilities. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The hour passed slowly for both sides as they prepared for what was to come. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the human and alien fleets faced each other across the cold emptiness of space. The Zephyrian ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the dark metal that had struck fear into dozens of conquered worlds. The human vessels looked small and crude by comparison, but appearances could be deceiving. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Hughes Valiant, watching the alien fleet through the main viewing screen. His crew worked quietly at their stations, each person focused on their duties. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife, but Morrison was proud to see that none of his people showed fear. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the alien flagship," announced Communications Officer Pete Davis. "Put it through," Morrison replied, straightening his uniform. Commander Vexthal appeared on the screen again, his 4 eyes showing the same confident expression as before. Behind him, Morrison could see other aliens working at strange-looking control panels covered in lights and symbols. That hurt to look at directly. "Your hour is up, human," Vexthal said, his voice carrying the tone of someone who had done this many times before. "You have not begun surrender procedures. This is your final warning. Submit now or face the consequences." Morrison looked at his crew, seeing the determination in their faces. These people had volunteered to explore the unknown depths of space, and they would not back down from a fight when Earth's freedom was at stake. "Commander Vexthal, I repeat our position. We want peace between our peoples, but we will not surrender our freedom. If you attack us, we will defend ourselves with everything we have." The alien commander's expression changed to one of annoyance. These humans were more stubborn than most species he had encountered. Usually, primitive races would at least try to negotiate some kind of deal to save their lives. These humans seemed to think they could actually fight back. "Very well," Vexthal said with a sigh. "Since you refuse to see reason, we will provide a demonstration of our power. Perhaps watching one of your ships die will help the others understand their situation." The transmission ended, and Morrison immediately opened communications with his fleet. "All ships, this is Valiant. Prepare for combat. They're going to attack." Across the human fleet, captains and crews made their final preparations. On the Hughes Ranger, Captain Lisa Grant checked her weapon systems one more time. Her ship was the smallest in the human fleet, converted from a deep space mining vessel. It looked harmless enough, which was exactly what the humans wanted. "Captain, the aliens are targeting us," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Dan Cooper. "I think they picked us because we're the smallest." Grant smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had made their first mistake. The UES Ranger might look like the weakest ship in the fleet, but it packed more firepower than most people would believe. The mining equipment had been replaced with weapons that could crack asteroids in half. "Let them come," Grant said. "All stations, prepare for combat. Shield generators to maximum power." On the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Vexthal watched as his weapons officer targeted the small human vessel. The ship looked like it was made from spare parts, barely worthy of the name Warship. One shot from their plasma cannons would turn it into glowing gas. "Fire!" Vexthal ordered. The Zephyrian cruiser unleashed a beam of superheated plasma that had destroyed countless ships across the galaxy. The energy blast crossed the distance between the fleets in seconds, striking the UES Ranger with the force of a small sun. The Zephyrians expected to see the human ship explode in a brilliant flash of light. Instead, something impossible happened. The plasma beam struck the Ranger's shields and scattered in all directions like water hitting a rock. The human ship sat unchanged in space, its hull gleaming under the reflected energy of the attack. "What?" Vexthal gasped, his 4 eyes wide with shock. "That's impossible. Our plasma cannons can cut through any known shield technology." On the bridge of the Ranger, Captain Grant felt the ship shake as the enemy weapons struck their defenses. The shield generators hummed with power, easily absorbing the alien attack. The humans had learned much from studying the wreckage of their own ships during centuries of warfare. Their shields were designed to handle multiple types of energy weapons. "Shield strength at 92%, reported Lieutenant Cooper. "That wasn't even close to breaking through." "Good," Grant replied. "Now let's show them what human weapons can do. All batteries, fire at will." The UES Ranger transformed in seconds from what looked like a harmless cargo ship into a weapon of war. Hidden panels opened along its hull, revealing gun barrels that had been disguised as sensor arrays. The ship's main weapon, a rail gun that could fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds, emerged from what had appeared to be a cargo bay. The Ranger opened fire with everything it had. Rail gun rounds screamed through space at a significant fraction of light speed, followed by nuclear-tipped missiles and experimental plasma torpedoes that the humans had developed in secret. The barrage struck the Zephyrian cruiser before its crew could even react. The alien ship's shields designed to stop energy weapons, offered no protection against solid projectiles moving at such high speeds. The railgun rounds punched through the shield generators like they weren't even there, tearing holes in the cruiser's hull. The missiles followed, their nuclear warheads detonating inside the ship and tearing it apart from within. The Zephyrian cruiser broke in half, its pieces spinning away into the darkness of space. Emergency lights flickered on the remaining sections as the crew tried, desperately, to escape in life pods. Commander Vexthal stared at the wreckage of his ship in complete disbelief. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like what had just happened. The primitive humans had destroyed one of his cruisers with a single exchange of fire. "Sir, the other human ships are powering up their weapons," reported his tactical officer, the young alien's voice shaking with fear. Vexthal looked at the sensor readings and felt his blood run cold. The human ships were revealing their true nature. What had appeared to be cargo bays were opening to show massive gun barrels. Sensor arrays were retracting to reveal missile launchers. The humans had built their ships to look harmless while hiding enough firepower to challenge a Zephyrian battle fleet. "How is this possible?" Vexthal whispered. "Our intelligence report said they were primitive." On the Use Valiant, Captain Morrison opened communications with the alien fleet. His face was calm, but his voice carried the steel of someone who had seen combat before. "Commander Vexthal, you have attacked our vessel without provocation. We gave you the chance for peace and you chose war. If you continue this fight, we will defend ourselves with everything we have. This is your last chance to withdraw." The alien commander looked at the human on his screen with new eyes. This was not the desperate plea of a primitive species facing superior technology. This was a warning from someone who knew exactly what his ships could do in a fight. "You destroyed one of our ships," Vexthal said, his voice no longer carrying the confidence it had before. "You fired first," Morrison replied. "We simply fired back." "Your move, Commander." Around the human fleet, the other ships were also revealing their hidden weapons. The Use Defiant, under Captain Amy Rodriguez, showed that it carried a swarm of small fighter craft that moved in patterns the Zephyrians had never seen before. The UES Titan, commanded by Captain Steve Walsh, revealed a weapon that looked like it could punch holes through planets. Vexthal realized that his intelligence had been completely wrong. These humans were not primitive farmers or merchants. They were warriors who had spent centuries perfecting the art of war. Their ships might look crude, but they were designed by people who understood that sometimes the best weapon was the one your enemy didn't see coming. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked his tactical officer. Vexthal looked at the human ships, then at his own fleet. He had 30 ships to their 12, but after seeing what just one human vessel could do, he was no longer sure that numbers would be enough. These humans had just changed everything he thought he knew about warfare. The two fleets faced each other across the void, both sides now understanding that this would not be the easy conquest the Zephyrians had expected. The humans had shown their teeth, and the aliens were beginning to realize they might have bitten off more than they could chew. The real battle was about to begin. The silence that followed the destruction of the Zephyrian cruiser lasted only seconds, but it felt like hours to both sides. Commander Vexthal stared at the wreckage of his ship, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. These humans were supposed to be easy prey, not dangerous predators who could destroy his vessels with a single attack. Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet through his main screen, waiting to see what they would do next. His crew was ready for whatever came, their hands steady on their controls, despite the magnitude of what they were facing. The humans had shown their strength, but Morrison knew this was only the beginning. "Captain, the alien ships are spreading out into attack formation," reported Lieutenant Commander Beth Turner from her position at the tactical station. "It looks like they're preparing for a full assault." Morrison nodded grimly. The Zephyrians had been given a chance to back down, but their pride would not let them retreat after losing one of their ships. Now both sides were committed to a fight that would determine the fate of humanity and possibly change the balance of power in the galaxy. All ships, this is Valiant, Morrison announced over the fleet communications. Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Show them what human engineering can really do. Across the human fleet, captains and crews sprang into action. Years of preparation and training had led to this moment. Every ship in the fleet had been designed not just to fight, but to fight in ways that would surprise and overwhelm their enemies. The UES Defiant, under Captain Amy Rodriguez, was the first to reveal its true capabilities. What had appeared to be a simple cargo hauler suddenly opened dozens of launch bays along its hull. Swarms of small fighter craft poured out like angry insects, each one controlled by advanced artificial intelligence that could react faster than any living pilot. Launch all fighters, Rodriguez ordered. Pattern Delta 7. The fighter swarm spread out in a formation that looked random to the Zephyrians, but it was actually a carefully planned attack pattern that humans had developed during their own wars. The small ships moved in groups that supported each other, creating overlapping fields of fire that would be impossible for larger vessels to escape. On the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Vexville watched the human fighters with growing alarm. His ships had weapons designed to fight other large vessels, not swarms of small, fast-moving targets. The fighters were using the asteroid field to mask their approach, appearing and disappearing behind chunks of rock like ghosts. "Sir, our targeting. Systems can't lock onto them," reported his weapons officer. "They're moving too fast and using too much cover." "Then fire into the asteroid field," Vexthal ordered. "Destroy their cover." The Zephyrian ships opened fire with their plasma cannons, turning asteroids into glowing gas and debris. But the human fighters adapted instantly, using the destruction to create even more confusion. They fired their weapons through the glowing clouds of vaporized rock, their missiles and energy beams striking Zephyrian ships before the aliens could see where the attacks were coming from. Meanwhile, the UES Titan had revealed its own surprise. Captain Steve Walsh's ship looked like a modified mining vessel, but it carried humanity's most experimental weapon. The ship's main gun was a device that could compress matter into a tiny point and then fire it at speeds approaching the speed of light. "Target their largest ship," Walsh ordered his gunner, Chief Martinez. "Let's see how their shields handle this." The Titan's main weapon fired with a sound like thunder. The compressed matter projectile crossed the distance between the fleets. In less than a second, striking the Zephyrian flagship shields with the force of a small nuclear bomb. The alien ship's defensive systems, designed to stop energy weapons, had no way to deflect solid matter moving at such incredible speeds. The projectile punched through the shields like they weren't there, tearing a hole completely through the flagship from front to back. Emergency alarms wailed throughout the ship as atmosphere rushed out through the massive breach in the hull. Commander Vexthal was thrown from his command chair as his ship shuddered under the impact. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power systems failed. Through the chaos, he could hear his crew shouting damage reports and trying to seal the breach that threatened to tear his ship apart. "Sir, we've lost main power," reported his engineering officer. "The humans have some kind of weapon that can punch through our shields and armor like they're made of paper." Vexthal struggled to his feet, his four eyes taking in the destruction around him. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen weapons like the ones these humans possessed. They fought like they had been preparing for this battle their entire lives. The UES Vanguard, under Captain Frank Hayes, demonstrated yet another human innovation. The ship allowed itself to be surrounded by 3 Zephyrian destroyers, appearing to be trapped and helpless. The alien ships moved in for the kill, their plasma cannons charging for a coordinated attack that would surely destroy the human vessel. Then Captain Hayes activated his ship's secret weapon. The Vanguard was equipped with a gravity generator that could create artificial gravity wells in space. As the Zephyrian ships closed in, Hayes triggered the device, creating a zone of intense gravitational force that caught all 3 enemy vessels. The alien ships were crushed together like tin cans in a giant's fist. Their hulls buckled and twisted as the artificial gravity well pulled them toward each other with irresistible force. Within seconds, all three destroyers were nothing but twisted metal and debris. Gravity weapon successfully tested, Hayes reported, calmly over the fleet communications. Ready for the next target. On the used Discovery, Dr. Sarah Kim was working frantically at her science station, analyzing the alien technology as the battle raged around them. Every time the Zephyrians fired their weapons or used their shields, she gathered data about how their systems worked. Captain Morrison, I'm finding weaknesses in their technology, she reported over the communications system. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, but they're vulnerable to rapid-fire kinetic attacks. If we can coordinate our rail guns, we can overload their defensive systems. Morrison smiled grimly. This was exactly why he had insisted on bringing Dr. Kim along on this mission. Her ability to analyze and adapt to new technology in real time was giving the human fleet a crucial advantage. All ships, this is Valiant, Morrison announced. Dr. Kim has found a weakness in their shields. Coordinate your railgun attacks. Hit them fast and hard. The human ships began working together like a pack of wolves, their railguns firing in sequence to overwhelm the Zephyrian shields. The aliens found themselves facing a type of warfare they had never encountered before. These humans didn't just fight with superior technology, they fought with superior tactics and coordination. Captain Lisa Grant, still commanding the UES Ranger, led her ship in a daring attack run against the Zephyrian battlecruiser. Her ship darted between the enemy's plasma blasts, using its superior maneuverability to avoid being hit while returning fire with everything it had. All weapons, concentrate fire on their shield generators, Grant ordered. Let's see how they handle a full barrage. The Ranger unleashed a devastating attack, its rail guns, missiles, and energy weapons all targeting the same point on the enemy ship's hull. The concentrated firepower overwhelmed the alien shields and tore through their armor, causing massive explosions that lit up the darkness of space. As the battle continued, it became clear that the humans were not just defending themselves, they were actively hunting the alien ships. Every human vessel fought with a precision and viciousness that shocked the Zephyrians. These weren't desperate defenders fighting for their lives. They were apex predators who had turned warfare into an art form. Commander Vexthal, still struggling to keep his damaged flagship operational, watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had completely underestimated. The humans fought with a coordination that spoke of centuries of warfare, using tactics and weapons that his people had never seen before. Sir, we've lost 8 ships, reported his tactical officer. The humans are picking us apart. Vexthal looked at the tactical display, seeing his once proud fleet being torn to pieces by the smaller human force. He had come here expecting an easy victory, but instead he had found humanity's teeth and claws. The battle was far from over. But already it was clear that the Zephyrian Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened a sleeping giant, and now they were paying the price for their arrogance. The asteroid field had become a graveyard of twisted metal and glowing debris. 15 Zephyrian ships floated dead in space, their hulls torn open by weapons they had never imagined possible. The remaining alien vessels tried desperately to regroup, but the human ships gave them no time to recover. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U's Valiant, watching the tactical display as his fleet continued their relentless assault. What had started as a defensive action had become something much more dangerous. The humans were no longer just protecting themselves, they were actively hunting down every alien ship they could find. Captain, the enemy flagship is trying to retreat, reported Lieutenant Commander Beth Turner. They're moving toward the edge of the system. Morrison felt a cold determination settle over him. If the Zephyrians escaped, they would return with a larger fleet, possibly one that Earth could not defeat. This battle had to end here and now, with a victory so complete that the aliens would never dare threaten humanity again. All ships, this is Valiant, Morrison announced over the fleet communications. The enemy flagship is attempting to withdraw. We cannot allow them to escape and bring reinforcements. Surround and disable that ship. The human fleet moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Each captain knew their role and executed it perfectly. Years of training and preparation had led to this moment, and they would not let Earth down. Captain Amy Rodriguez, commanding the UES Defiant, sent her fighter swarms ahead to harass the retreating flagship. The small craft buzzed around the massive Zephyrian ship like angry bees, their weapons pecking away at the alien vessel's damaged shields. "Keep them busy," Rodriguez ordered her pilots through the control systems. "Don't let them focus on their escape." The AI-controlled fighters responded instantly, adjusting their attack patterns to maximum aggression. They darted in and out of the flagship's defensive fire, too small and fast for the large ship's weapons to hit effectively. On the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Vexthal was fighting a losing battle against both the humans and his own damaged ship. Emergency teams worked frantically to repair the massive hole that the UES Titan had punched through his vessel, while his remaining weapons tried to drive off the swarm of human fighters. "Sir, the humans are surrounding us," reported his tactical officer. "They're cutting off our escape route." Vexthal looked at the tactical display with growing despair. The human ships were moving into position with a coordination that spoke of extensive battle experience. These weren't the actions of a primitive species fighting their first space battle. These were the tactics of born warriors who had spent generations perfecting the art of war. "How many ships do we have left?" Vexthal asked. 12, sir," came the grim reply. "But most of them are damaged. The humans have destroyed or disabled more than half our fleet." Vexthal closed his 4 eyes in defeat. In 30 years of conquest, he had never lost more than 2 or 3 ships in any single battle. The species he had conquered before had either surrendered immediately or put up token resistance before being overwhelmed. None of them had fought like these humans. The UES Titan, still commanded by Captain Steve Walsh, was moving into position for another shot with its devastating main weapon. The compressed matter cannon had already crippled the flagship once, and another hit would likely destroy it completely. "Target their engine section," Walsh ordered. "If we can't capture them, we'll make sure they can't run." But before the Titan could fire, something unexpected happened. The used Discovery, Dr. Sarah Kim's science vessel, moved between the Titan and the alien flagship. "Captain Walsh, hold your fire," came Dr. Kim's voice over the communications. "I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout their ship. I think they're preparing to self-destruct rather than be captured." Morrison quickly opened communications with all his ships. "All vessels maintain distance from the enemy flagship. They may be preparing to destroy their own ship." On the alien flagship, Commander Vexthal was indeed considering the unthinkable. Zephyrian military doctrine called for ships to self-destruct rather than be captured, but he had never thought he would actually face such a situation. The idea that a primitive species could defeat a Zephyrian fleet had been impossible to imagine. "Sir, should I activate the self-destruct sequence?" asked his weapons officer. Vexthal hesitated. Destroying his ship would deny the humans any chance to study Zephyrian technology, but it would also kill everyone aboard. More importantly, it would mean that no one would return to warn the Empire about humanity's true capabilities. "Wait," Vexthal said. "Open a communication channel to the human flagship." The main screen flickered to life, showing Captain Morrison's stern face. The human leader looked calm and controlled, but Vexthal could see the steel in his eyes. This was a man who had just defeated a superior force through superior tactics and determination. "Commander Vexthal," Morrison said, "your fleet is defeated. Your ships are destroyed or disabled. I'm offering you one chance to surrender. Refuse, and we will finish what you started." Vexthal looked around his damaged bridge at his surviving crew. These young aliens had followed him into battle, believing in Zephyrian superiority, and now they were paying the price for his arrogance. "Captain Morrison," Vexthal said slowly, "you have proven that our intelligence about your species was completely wrong. We believed you were primitive and weak. We were obviously mistaken." "You attacked us without provocation," Morrison replied. "You demanded our surrender and threatened our people. What did you expect us to do?" "We expected you to surrender like all the others," Vexthal admitted. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered dozens of worlds. None of them ever fought back like this. None of them had weapons like yours. Morrison studied the alien commander for a moment. Despite everything that had happened, he could see that Vexthal was not an evil being, just one who had made terrible assumptions about humanity's capabilities. Your empire made a mistake, Morrison said. We are not like the others you have conquered. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We fought each other, we fought our environment, and we've always survived by being stronger and smarter than whatever threatened us. On his bridge, Morrison made a decision that would affect the future of both species. Instead of demanding unconditional surrender, he decided to offer the aliens a way out that would serve humanity's long-term interests. Commander Vexthal, I'm going to make you an offer, Morrison said. Surrender your remaining ships, and we'll allow your surviving crews to return to your empire. But they go back with a message. What message? Vexthal asked. That humanity is not to be trifled with, that Earth and her colonies are under human protection, that any future attacks on our people will be met with the full force of our military, and that we are willing to coexist peacefully with any species that respects our sovereignty. Vexthal considered the offer carefully. It was more generous than he had any right to expect, especially after the destruction his fleet had suffered. The humans could easily destroy his remaining ships and kill everyone aboard, but instead they were offering mercy. And if I refuse? Vexthal asked. Morrison's expression hardened. Then we finish this fight right now. Your remaining ships will be destroyed, and no one will return to warn your empire about what they're really dealing with. The next time they send a fleet to attack humanity, it will be an even bigger surprise for them. Around the alien flagship, the human ships maintained their positions, their weapons trained on the Zephyrian vessels. The message was clear. They had the power to destroy what remained of the alien fleet, but they were choosing to offer mercy. Instead, Dr. Sarah Kim's voice came over the communications from the UES Discovery. Captain Morrison, I'm detecting more Zephyrian ships at the edge of the system. Long-range sensors show at least 50 vessels approaching. Morrison felt his stomach drop. Reinforcements were coming, and the human fleet was in no condition to fight another battle. They had won this engagement, but barely, and only through surprise and superior tactics. Against 50 fresh ships, even human ingenuity might not be enough. Commander Vexthal had heard the same report. He looked at Morrison with something that might have been respect. Captain Morrison, Vexthal said, those ships are led by Admiral Korethvas, one of our most experienced commanders. If you let us go now, I can contact him and tell him what happened here. I can convince him to turn back. Morrison realized that the alien commander was offering him a way out of an impossible situation. The approaching fleet would arrive in less than an hour, not enough time for the humans to prepare adequate defenses. And why would you do that? Morrison asked. Because, Vexthal said quietly, you have shown me that there are still species in this galaxy worth respecting. Your people fought with honor, even when facing superior numbers. That is something the Zephyrian Empire has forgotten how to recognize. The fate of both fleets, and possibly both civilizations, now hung in the balance as Morrison considered the alien commander's offer. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the tactical display showing 50 Zephyrian ships approaching the Sol system. His fleet had just won an impossible victory against 30 alien vessels, but they were in no condition to fight 50 more. Several of his ships were damaged, ammunition was running low, and his crew was exhausted from the intense battle. The decision he made in the next few minutes would determine the fate of humanity and possibly change the course of galactic history. He looked at Commander Vexthal on the main screen, seeing something in the alien's 4 eyes that he had not expected to find: genuine respect. Commander Vexthal, Morrison said slowly, if I accept your offer to contact your reinforcements, how do I know you won't simply tell them to attack us? Because, Vexthal replied, you have taught me something today that I thought I already knew. True strength is not about having the biggest fleet or the most advanced weapons. True strength is knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. You could destroy my remaining ships right now, but instead you offer us a chance to live. That is the mark of a truly powerful species. Morrison looked around his bridge at his crew. Lieutenant Commander Beth Turner nodded slightly, indicating her support for whatever decision he made. Communications Officer Pete Davis was ready to relay his orders. These people had followed him into battle against impossible odds and won. Now they were trusting him to make the right choice for all of humanity. Very well, Morrison said. Contact your admiral. But understand this, Commander. If this is a trick, if you try to lead us into a trap, the next Zephyrian fleet that comes to this system will find Earth ready for war. And we will not show mercy a second time. Vexthel bowed his head in what Morrison hoped was a gesture of respect. You have my word, Captain Morrison. I will tell Admiral Korethvas exactly what happened here, and I will recommend that he withdraw immediately. The alien commander turned to his communications officer and began speaking in the Zephyrian language. Morrison could not understand the words, but he could hear the urgency in Vexthel's voice as he tried to contact the approaching fleet. While they waited, Morrison opened a channel to Admiral Helen Brooks back on Earth. The Admiral's face appeared. On the secondary screen, her expression tense with worry. Captain Morrison, we're detecting a massive alien fleet approaching the system, Admiral Brooks said. What's your status? We've defeated the initial attack force, Admiral, Morrison reported. But we're facing reinforcements. The alien commander is attempting to contact them and convince them to withdraw. If that fails, we'll need every ship Earth can spare. Admiral Brooks nodded grimly. All available vessels are already moving to your position, but they won't arrive in time if the aliens attack immediately. You'll have to handle this on your own. The transmission ended, leaving Morrison and his crew to wait and hope that an alien commander they had been fighting just minutes before would keep his word. On the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Vexthel was having the most difficult conversation of his career. Admiral Korethvas had been his mentor for many years, teaching him the strategies that had led to so many successful conquests. Now he had to tell his old teacher that everything they thought they knew about warfare had been proven wrong by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Admiral, you must not engage the humans, Vexthel said urgently. Their ships are far more dangerous than our intelligence suggested. They have weapons and tactics we have never encountered before. They destroyed 18 of my ships and disabled the rest. On the screen, Admiral Korethvas looked skeptical. He was an older Zephyrian with scars from many battles, and his 6 eyes showed the confidence of someone who had never been defeated. Commander, you are telling me that 30 of our best ships were defeated by 12 primitive vessels? The Admiral asked. That is impossible. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs? I thought the same thing, Admiral, Vexthel replied, but I was wrong. These humans have been preparing for this kind of battle their entire history. They fight like they were born for war. Their ships may look primitive, but they carry weapons that can punch through our shields like they are made of air. Admiral Korethvas studied his former student carefully. Vexthel had always been reliable and honest, not given to exaggeration or panic. If he said the humans were dangerous, then perhaps there was more to this situation than the intelligence report suggested. Show me the battle recordings, the Admiral ordered. For the next several minutes, Admiral Korethvas watched the recordings of the battle with growing amazement and horror. He saw human ships that looked like cargo haulers reveal hidden weapons, powerful enough to destroy Zephyrian cruisers. He watched swarms of small fighters move in patterns that confused and overwhelmed the alien targeting systems. Most shocking of all, he saw a human weapon that could compress matter and fire it at speeds that made their shields useless. By the ancient stars, the Admiral whispered. What kind of species creates weapons like these? A species that has been fighting wars for thousands of years, Vexthel replied. Admiral, we made a terrible mistake. We thought these humans were like the Deltani or the Korath, peaceful traders and farmers who would surrender at the first sign of superior force. Instead, we found apex predators who have turned warfare into an art form. Admiral Korethvas continued watching the recordings, paying special attention to how the human ships worked together. Their coordination was flawless, each vessel supporting the others in ways that spoke of extensive training and experience. These were not the actions of a species new to space combat. "Commander, you said the human leader offered terms?" the Admiral asked. "Yes, sir. Captain Morrison offered to let our surviving crews return to the Empire with a message. He wants us to tell our people that humanity is not to be attacked again, but that they are willing to coexist peacefully with species that respect their territory." The Admiral considered this carefully. In his experience, primitive species either begged for mercy or fought to the death. None of them had ever offered terms from a position of strength. The fact that these humans were confident enough to dictate conditions after winning a battle showed a level of strategic thinking that impressed him. "Admiral," Vexthal continued, "I recommend that we accept their terms and withdraw immediately. If we attack them now, we may win through superior numbers, but the cost will be enormous. And if we lose, the Empire will have no warning about what these humans are capable of." Admiral Korethvas made his decision. He had not become one of the Empire's most successful commanders by ignoring good advice or letting pride cloud his judgment. The recordings showed clearly that these humans were unlike any species the Zephyrians had ever encountered. "Very well, Commander," the Admiral said. "I am ordering the fleet to withdraw. But first I want to speak with this Captain Morrison myself." A few minutes later, Captain Morrison found himself face to face with another alien commander, this one even more imposing than Vexthal. Admiral Korethvas had the bearing of someone who had conquered worlds and commanded respect from entire civilizations. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral said, "I have reviewed the recordings of your battle with Commander Vexthal's fleet. Your tactics and weapons are most impressive. I can see why my forces were defeated." "Admiral," Morrison replied, "we did not seek this conflict. Your people attacked us without provocation. We simply defended ourselves." "Indeed," Korethvas agreed. "And you defended yourselves very effectively. I have decided to accept your terms and withdraw my fleet. But I have a question for you, Captain. What assurance do I have that your people will not use these weapons to attack the Empire?" Morrison considered the question carefully. "Admiral, humans have a saying, we judge others by their actions, not their words. Your Empire attacked us first. We responded to defend our homes and families. If your people leave us in peace, we will leave you in peace. But if you attack us again, you will find us ready." The Admiral nodded slowly. "A fair answer, Captain. I will carry your message back to the Empire. I suspect this encounter will change many things about how we view the galaxy and our place in it." The conversation ended, and both fleets began to withdraw from the asteroid belt. The Zephyrian survivors were allowed to return to their empire with their damaged ships, carrying news of humanity's unexpected strength. The human fleet returned to Earth as heroes, their victory ensuring that humanity would be left alone to develop and explore the galaxy on their own terms. 6 months later, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of a new ship, the UES Enterprise, one of a new class of vessels designed specifically for deep space exploration and defense. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but humanity was no longer defenseless. Word had spread among the alien civilizations about the species that had defeated a Zephyrian fleet, and other races were approaching Earth with offers of trade and alliance rather than threats of conquest. Admiral Helen Brooks had been promoted to head the new Space Defense Command, overseeing the construction of a fleet that would protect not just Earth, but all of humanity's growing colonies among the stars. The battle in the asteroid belt had announced to the galaxy that humanity was a force to be respected. As Morrison looked out at the stars, he knew that this was only the beginning.